ZombieTech. Welcome to ZombieTech, a forum for engineers, scientists, and inventors to ponder on the technologies needed to survive the inevitable zombie apocalypse.
She's Eddie.
He's Whisker.
And this week, it sounds like we have another doubleheader, or creature feature, as it were.
Creature feature?
Yeah.
They're not really creatures. They're creatures of awesome. How about that?
Sure.
Yeah. So this week we have Nickelplate and Nobile. And for fear of, well, I can easily say Nickelplate's real name, Brad, I will let Nobile say her name because she says it much better than I do.
Hi, my name is Ruth.
There we go. Beautiful. So, hi guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Awesome. Now, how did you guys end up coming up with your nicknames?
My nickname was from a book that I read. It was called Otherland. There was a guy in there called Nickelplate, and he was one of the bad guys. At the time, I had just finished the books, and I was looking for a unique Hotmail address that didn't have any numbers in it. And I just happened to hook onto that one, and it wasn't taken on anything. So I pretty much have it on everything but YouTube, Gmail stuff.
Nice.
Otherland, is that like the series from Ted Williams?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
I think we have that one.
Oh, yes, we do, of course.
Nickelplate was a bad guy?
I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. He was one of the twin guys. There was the skinny one and the fat one.
Yeah.
It was Nickelplate and Butterball.
So Brad's a bad guy.
Yeah, but he's not a zombie.
Sometimes.
You're anti-zombies, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, then he can be a good guy.
All right.
Yeah. And then how about Nobile? Where did that come from?
I was just starting being online, and I used to use just the nickname that people called me, like in school. And I wanted to have something more, not my real name.
Sure.
And I just made up the word. I thought that I was making up a new word, and I like names that start with N.
Oh, that works.
And I made up that word, and apparently a few years later I found out that it actually is a word in Italian.
Oh, what does it mean?
Noble.
Ah, nice.
Well, it works out then.
Yeah, it does work out. So, in other words, like you run the house, and Nickelplate's like your servant, dude. I see how it is.
Yeah,
He
pretty
cooks
much.
for me.
Nice. We're gonna have to talk about cooking then later in the show.
All right, for a little background story here, these guys found us, I think, through one of our videos on our TV show, Toymaker Television, and we were building musical instruments from scratch a while back.
Oh, is that how
some
you guys
cigar
met?
box guitars,
Mhm.
and I think they found us through one of those, and he had a bunch of questions for us about how we were doing various
That's
things.
right. I do remember this.
And ended up just sort of hanging around in the IRC room after, and we found out that these guys are doing some really interesting stuff out
Crazy
where they live.
interesting stuff.
So can you guys give us like a general idea of the basic area and where you guys live?
Where we live?
Yeah, the
Or-
region there.
We live in a region called the Ozarks. It's a plateau made mostly of limestone, and so we have a lot of caves around. And then the whole thing is pretty much capped off with forest, which is really nice. And our main things around here are the rivers and some lakes that were made by the Army Corps of Engineers.
So for those of you listeners who are outside the U.S., the Ozarks are
Probably some of the most
very,
beautiful.
yeah, absolutely gorgeous place where pretty much nobody lives.
Except for you guys.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
have
cool.
no idea how you guys are able to get this good of an audio connection over the net out there. It's just magic.
Now, are you guys in the middle of nowhere, essentially? Like, just on a crap ton of land, or how does it...
Well, we have the place where we actually live and work, which is a city here,
Okay.
and that's where we are right now. And then the place where we actually do all of our stuff and where a lot of our projects take place is actually out in the country. We have 80 acres out by where my parents live, which is actually in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. And how'd you guys end up getting involved in the restoration, I guess, of these 80 acres?
Well, this land in particular is a place that I grew up playing as a kid, and one of the ways to make money around there, one of the only ways actually, is you either clear the land for pasture, and then you raise cattle, or you just periodically go through and log, which is taking out all the big trees and selling the timber. As a kid, seeing either of those happen was really sad because, intact woodland is a really great place to play, but when you've got the treetops laying around and big holes in the canopy and everything, it doesn't look that great.
Right.
So I kind of gravitated toward the environmentalist side of things early, and then when the opportunity came to buy some land right there, I took it, and for the past few years, I've been planting up to over 500 trees actually, a year mostly. This last year we did a little bit less.
Now,
But,
the term environmentalist has been a little bit tainted by some of the, more, I don't know how to say it, hippie-ish, youngster-ish.
Tree-hugging hippies?
No, not exactly. The tree-hugging hippies wouldn't bother me nearly as much as some of like the college students who are looking for a cause and become obnoxious sort of people. But the sort of environmentalist I think he's talking about is more the original meaning of the word, which is somebody who, knows a lot about trees and ecosystems and all that sort of thing and actually goes out and fixes them, as like a hobby. And it's one thing to stand out on a sidewalk in New York and hold up a sign. It's another thing to actually replant a forest by yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I guess in times past we may have been called naturalists instead.
Yeah.
I think that for the context here, I think we should probably run with that because it's a much more accurate.
A naturalist.
Without all the negative connotations. A naturalist. So yeah, I mean these are the kind of guys who went out and discovered things like Yosemite, for example. We drove through there on our way home from California. People who feel the way that he feels about the natural state of things are the guys who made sure that things like Yosemite were protected.
Yeah. Except Yosemite is not protected from like itself. I don't know if you've ever been, but they pretty much like there are complete areas by the roads, just in the middle of nowhere too, that have been struck by lightning and essentially have like forest fire remains, but it's just part of the natural ecology, and everyone's like, oh yeah, nope, couple trees burn, couple 100 acres burn. It's no big deal. They'll come back.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a piece of land that's just huge, that you couldn't walk across in a day. They used to burn naturally once a year, and that's actually part of the ecosystem.
Right.
Nowadays, we have kind of a climate of wildfire suppression,
Right.
which means that each year you build up that year's layer of what would be fuel for a smaller fire under normal natural circumstances, which is why when you hear about a fire in California or something, everybody's so freaked out because you've got like 20 years of unburned stuff there that just the flames actually get so high that it reaches the top of the trees and sets those on fire, and then that's when you have what's called just top killing, which is the whole top of the tree dies and only the stuff that's below the ground survives, and on most trees that means the whole tree's going to die.
Oh. Wow.
So it would be better to just let them
burn.
do their normal thing, but we're stopping it. And, it's like so many things in our environment. That's what is happening because of actions that we take to make things more convenient for us. Almost disconnectedly, it causes problems upstream from there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, have you guys had any fires in your little 80 acres at all?
Yeah, actually,
Oh.
we set some ourselves.
A
On
pyro
We
purpose.
too.
Yeah. It was and the first time we did it, we had Brad has a friend that is in charge of the burn the what is it, the burn department of Missouri Conservation? I'm not sure,
Sure.
but
It's Department of Natural Resources for the fire management.
Okay.
that one. And she gave us instructions and everything, and I think we even made a video of it.
Oh,
Yeah, we do have a
dude.
video out there somewhere.
All right, we're gonna need a link of that so we can check it out because that's cool. That's very cool.
How to start
And
your
the
own
first time
forest
was great,
fire
really.
safely.
So how much? I mean, like, did you guys just, I don't know, make a campfire, sing a few songs, make some s'mores, and then watch a tree burn, or like, how did that work?
No, we have two fields, one in the front towards the road on our property and one in the back. The front one is a 5-acre field and the back one's a 10-acre field.
Okay.
And just like the forests here, the places where the land is cleared also have a history of fire. And actually that's what keeps the whole thing from just being all forest again, is because every year a fire is supposed to go down and knock down all the little seedlings that are in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're actually supposed to be burning pretty much everything you've got every year, or at least every other year. And we wanted to start that because once you start that, the exotic species like fescue grass and Sericea lespedeza, those go away after you start with fire management, and then the native grasses and wildflowers start to come back. We kind of wanted to do that as part of our restoration thing, so we tried to set it on fire the first time. And there was just no wind, so it was great. And the second time we started, it almost got away from us, and it was so scary. We could never actually get any of our friends or any people, any of my contacts with the conservation department or the Department of Natural Resources to come out and help us. Our schedules never lined up. Since our property is about 100 miles away from where we live, it's a 2-hour drive, so we kind of just have to do that on weekends. We have to go there on weekends, and we could never get anybody's schedule to line up. So we ended up trying to do it by ourselves in really small sections that would be manageable. But one time we lit it, and then the wind kicked up, and it was burning really fast. I had to run across the whole field with a bucket and get water out of the pond to try to put it out. We finally got it out, and that was also when I realized I was way out of shape.
I've actually done this exact thing, including the running around with buckets.
What?
Growing up, my grandparents owned a nice little bit of land, and across the street from them, they also owned just a plain field, and they used it for potatoes, right? And it was much more cost effective to just burn it off at the beginning of the year when you were getting ready to put in your new potatoes. And usually, as long as the wind wasn't up, it was a job for one of my uncles to do, right? And this is in an area where it was very prone to fires, so they actually dug fire breaks every block or so out in the country, and that's about a mile on each side. So there would be, along the sides of the roads, there'd be these ditches full of water, and they're actually connected to the natural water system. So when the salmon would spawn, you'd see all these salmon come all the way up the fire ditches into the middle of nowhere. You'd be out in the middle of a field, you'd look down, there'd be giant fish in a little tiny creek.
Yeah.
So one year the wind picked up when he was in the middle of doing it, and it caught the whole field on fire bad.
Yeah.
And he come tearing back over to the house and called for everybody to come out for a bucket line. So he had to run out there with 20, 30 buckets to get water from the creek to bring in and get the fire down. And it was pretty effective with a bunch of people, but you have to be very careful with doing this sort of thing.
So then it was you and Nobile, the two of you guys, doing
a job that took us probably 6 people.
That's craziness. Then how big of a chunk do you do? Not acres at a time, I imagine.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Well, under ideal conditions, yeah. When you have, you mow a line around the whole field that you're burning,
Mm-hmm.
and you mow it down really short, and then you start a fire from the outside and let it burn in. So technically, you're supposed to be able to have a person maybe at each corner of a square, and then you can look down both lines and see if anything gets out of hand, and you can go and squash it.
Sure.
Um, with our field, it's on like a hill, so you can't see all sides of the hill
I see.
and everything. So what we tried to do was just do, a 25 by 25 foot
Mm-hmm.
square. You know,
Okay.
we tried that, but the grass is about 3 feet tall and it's dry and dead. So once you start it, you
It's
have
not going to
to,
stop easily.
right. Yeah. And so what we tried to do was just light it around that square and then hope that it would burn in. You can just kind of smash it out with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the
Very
wind actually ended up blowing too hard for
It
that.
blew it through the road.
Yeah, even the road that didn't have hardly anything on it, it just blew it right across that and burned the tiny little stubble that's on the road.
The grass there is growing really nice now, though.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. And so it's just a matter of letting the natural. So you burn it, and then you just let nature take the rest of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of invasive species in the Ozarks. So, by burning it off, you can get rid of them, and they don't have a really good source of, naturally reseeding the area as efficiently as the native species do, because the native species are used to that happening every, year
So
of their
often,
year.
yeah.
So they can get back in there really quickly. And,
Very cool.
hopefully with any luck, it takes and they get enough of a foothold that the invasive species don't have enough um, uh, invasive power to be able to take it back from them.
So then I have a question. How easy would it...
Plant warfare.
Right. So since we are ZombieTech, how easy would it be to corral a bunch of zombies in a 25 by 25 foot square and get them burning?
Well, I don't know. I've never corralled zombies, but I do have a lot of experience with cattle.
What?
My parents had a cattle farm when I was a kid, so I don't know is that a ranch or I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, they had a lot of cows, and so if it's as easy as, well, I guess cows run away and zombies would go towards you, providing that you have brains. So
Right.
So basically, Addie, you're bait, and just
What?
run in the general direction you want them to go.
Why can't you be bait? Be a man. Grow a pair. I can set the fire. It's no problem. No buckets needed, though. Although, the problem with this idea is that if a zombie's on fire and they start walking, you can't
It'll
really...
spread.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
maybe it'll
that or they'll
spread to,
just-
zombies.
yeah, or they
Oh.
can fall on you and
And then
on
you're
fire. I don't know.
screwed. And you're totally screwed. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think I'd rather be bitten by a zombie than burned alive. Don't you think?
I don't want either.
Yeah.
So, just through the little introduction here, I think we've established why, the subtle reason why we thought it would be a really good idea to have these guys on the show, because
They're freaking awesome.
Like,
you guys are
the-
freaking awesome.
these folks know how to
Thank
do
you.
things that other people have completely lost. Just if there's a problem and something like, zombies, for example, and the normal way in which we, conduct day-to-day business in this country is interrupted. It's people like this that are actually going to be the reason why we actually
The world
don't
survives.
We don't fail, because we have people like this who have gone to the trouble to learn how to do things that are lost to, almost everyone else.
Right.
And we appreciate people like this on ZombieTech.
It is true. So let me ask, what does it take to bring... So you mentioned earlier that you guys do nearly 500 trees a year, which
Mhm.
is more than a tree a day, which I think is crazy because I can barely get my hedge clippers out to trim the bushes, right? So how in the... what does it take to get all of these trees planted? Well, first, how do you get all these trees? And second, what does it take to get them back into a suitable location?
Well, the trees we actually get the trees from the Missouri Department of Conservation. They have a thing where they sell very cheaply to residents of Missouri. So just for this purpose, to reforest or add wildlife habitat or whatever you want to do. And they specialize in the plants that are native to Missouri, which is nice because then you don't get any, hybrids of the natives and others, you know. So it's good to get the stock from there.
Mhm.
And as far as planting them, we use a post hole digger, which is like 2 shovels in a scissors kind of configuration.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen those before. Mm-hmm.
Okay, a lot of my friends here in the city don't really know about that.
Oh.
I've definitely used a post hole digger, and I have to say that it is one of my least favorite tools because absolutely, yeah, you'd think you'd think that would go okay as a plan, but unless you've done it a lot, oh my gosh, does that hurt?
I use the shovel. He uses a post hole digger.
How so?
You got to be a burly dude to use one of them things without about killing
Yes.
yourself.
He is strong.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. He's very manly.
All right, that's
Sort of fellow
that's a little awkward.
that you can tell can fell a tree,
Timber. So we're interrupting. Go ahead, keep going.
Something though. We plant the 500 trees in maybe 1 or 2 weekends.
What?
It's not.
Yeah, we're not
throughout
just
the
doing
year.
one a day or anything.
Wait, yeah, but okay, 1 or 2 weekends makes it even more crazy. Because
Okay, the time that we did it, I think in 1 weekend we had help. We had another guy help us planting.
Yeah.
The other times it's been just Brad and me. It's been maybe 3 weekends, 4.
3
No,
weekends.
this last one was 2, and the one before that I think was 2.
Okay.
All right, so 2 weekends for freaking 565 or whatever crazy number of trees. Okay, let me explain something. So, you know how I'm involved in ham radio?
Mhm.
Right? So, we needed to dig a hole for our ground line, our ground copper wire, whatever. And it took... we use like a little trowel, like a little shovel, because that's all we have, here being in the city and whatever. And it took us a good hour, maybe an hour and a half to dig that freaking hole which wasn't even deep enough. So my question is, how the heck is it just assembly line crazy, like fast? I don't even know how to. I can't picture it in my head because you guys would have to be a blur to be able to get all those trees in.
Well, the motion that you use for the post hole digger is the same one that you use for the hammer kind of thing that you use to drive down steel T-posts.
Okay.
And I've made miles of steel T-post barbed wire fence in my day, so I pretty much have the motion down. And then I also, when you're planting trees like that, you learn to know where the rocks will be and where they won't. And so if you want to plant a tree somewhere within 6 feet, you can definitely find a few places where it's going to be a lot easier to dig than if you just dig right in the middle where there happens to be a boulder or something,
So how do you know? What are the hints for us city slickers?
It's usually a low place, I would say. The higher places are usually lumped up with rocks, whereas a low place that's caught leaves and has darker soil when you kick the leaves away is probably going to be a good place. It's kind of hard to say, really. I kind of know after all. I don't know.
Tree whisperer. It's cool.
You put in miles of fence around a ranch, and you'll get good at things that normal people just never even think about.
So then, how deep do you guys have to dig for each of these holes?
Well, the trees, yeah, on average about a foot, maybe a little bit more. Some trees have huge roots, like bur oak trees have roots that are about as big as the top of the tree.
Huh.
And some trees like the plum and cherry trees and those type of things, they have really small roots that only need maybe 6-inch hole. So
interesting.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're planting.
And then is it as wide as like just a post hole digger?
Yeah. It's just one post hole digger wide.
So the short version is it's a lot of physical labor. And
yeah, it is.
You got to know how to hustle, obviously.
I really enjoy it though. It's not. I don't see it as work. It's actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
So
That's
how many
very
trees would you guys say that you've put in the ground? I know they don't all take, but how many would you guys say that you've put in?
Oh man, I have records of what I've bought, and I could probably actually get an exact number. But if I had to guess right now, uh, I'd say maybe about 3,000.
Jesus.
So
That's
for all of
amazing.
you guys out there,
That's amazing.
you know, he's making you all look bad. Okay. So, talking about, driving your Prius, to be green. Okay, this guy is planting thousands of trees. I'm pretty sure he's offsetting his carbon footprint.
Yeah. Wow, that's very cool. So then, like, how did you end up doing the research to know, like, where to put these trees? Well, like, do the trees have to go in certain locations? Like trees have to go in with like trees, or is it okay to just scatter them randomly?
Yeah, this is a really big, complicated topic, I'm sure. Didn't your dad work as part of the forestry?
Yeah, he was a forestry major
Yeah,
back in
so
college.
that's interesting. So for
But
those of you who don't, yeah, well, let them get
Whiskers.
to it. I'm just like, they're not going to be able to answer the question in, the detail that I'm sure they could. I'm just giving that disclaimer up front because the stuff these guys know about the native species is way beyond the scope of this show. But I'll let them answer the question here.
A lot of the knowledge of what trees are actually native just comes from seeing them and saying, "Hey, what's that?" And then you learn the kind of technical terms. Like if you look up a plant on Wikipedia, it'll tell you what style of leaves it has, and it'll use these words that you have to go and look up the words. Then after you learn those, you can kind of Google for a description of the plants you see, and so you say, okay, this has palmate leaves. They're opposite. You can tell what kind of leaves it has, or what kind of flower, what style of flower it has, or what kind of fruit, and then you can look it up by that. And then I've been really good at just getting descriptions like that and finding out.
So it's not like you guys carry around books when you're hiking around to see, like.
He just has really good memory.
That's cool. That's very cool because I've read some of your posts, and we'll put a link to it in the show description. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, I mean, there's you guys. I don't know. Like, did you major in forestry, or like just like it's an actual hobby where it's all self-taught essentially?
Oh, yeah. I just I've always been interested in that sort of thing, and my mom, whenever I was a kid, we would go out on walks out in the woods or on the gravel roads, and we'd find cool plants. We have a flower here that grows in like a thorny kind of vine, and when you touch the leaves, they shrivel up, they shrink up, and it looks like the plant goes to sleep.
Cool.
We'd find stuff like that, and then we would. This was before the internet was, available anywhere, like in our state, I think. And
so like 6 years ago.
a little bit longer than that.
Missouri joke.
But we'd have to look for it in the Audubon plant books. We had the birds and the plants and the bugs books from the Audubon Society, and we were able to look them up in there. And so I did get a lot of look at plants that I'd never seen in real life. They have pictures in those books, so I was able to identify later in life. I have a fairly photographic memory. I wouldn't say it's absolutely I remember everything, but when I see a plant or a flower or something like that, I remember the pictures from when I was a kid, and I'm able to apply those to what I see now.
Sure.
That's really handy.
Sure. Well, as long as you remember your anniversary date, then you'll be okay. Nobile won't kill you yet.
I'm the one that actually forgets that.
Now that's understandable because technically we actually have two wedding dates. We have the one where we were married in a church, and then we have the one where we actually signed the paperwork. And
yeah.
they were actually kind of far apart because we had to work with the immigration department to actually get her here
Sure.
from Honduras, where she was living at the time.
Sure. Wow. So you guys really so you remember the dates.
Yeah.
And then remind her. Hey, sweetheart, it's about 20 years now. Oh, okay. That's nice.
I think last year we were like,
We've
wow,
both
has it
forgotten,
been
yeah.
3 years since we got married? Wow.
That's awesome. So, you guys restore trees. You plant like a bajillion trees, like a second, and do it all with the power of your own hands. Do you guys also do plants, or is that more with the burning method?
Any plants really? They're hard to get, other
Ah,
than in seed form. And
okay.
we have gotten, just pounds and pounds of seeds last year, which is why we wanted to burn. Actually, we wanted to burn the field, then put the seeds down, and then the snow goes over the seeds and keeps them wet, which helps them to germinate, and then they come up in the spring.
Okay.
We didn't actually get to burn, so a lot of our seeds aren't going to take this year, which was kind of a sad waste. But
Sure.
um,
But if the birds come and they eat the seeds, eventually they'll poop them out. And if they poop them out, then maybe like, I don't know, maybe it'll like replant them. Does that make
maybe
sense?
some of them actually need to go through that process before they actually work.
Oh.
So
Imagine if that was part of our life cycle as humans. Like, I'm just sitting here waiting to get eaten and pooped out so that I can grow.
Yes. New definition of puberty. What the heck?
So
Maybe that's middle school though, because you go in, you get chewed up, you get crapped on by all the punks, right?
it's a nice metaphor, but it doesn't come anywhere close to actually being pooped out by a bird.
Whee.
I mean, other than the digestive process, you're falling. Does not sound like fun. So I know you guys do a bunch of other stuff too. I definitely want to touch on what other skills have you picked up doing this stuff that you think would be. I mean, we say zombie apocalypse, but I mean when you go out that far out and you've got to, establish a homestead out there. I mean, what is theory to most of us on ZombieTech is practice for you guys because you guys are out there doing it. How much of a foothold have you got on your property?
We are about we're half mile from the nearest gravel road, and then from there it's 7 miles to the nearest town of 2,000. So we're pretty far out, but there are roads all the way out to our place. So if we wanted to get a load of 2x4s or something, we could get it out there. But I really like the do-it-yourself pioneering kind of spirit, and so one of the things that we're doing now is we're working on building a hand-hewn log cabin.
Which is crazy. And for those who don't know what that is, could you explain it a little bit?
Yeah. Well, you cut down the tree, and then you cut the logs into the length of section you want your wall to be, and then you position it a certain way, and you slice off the sides, so you have a log that's flat on two sides.
Now, you're not using like a portable
square log,
sawmill
kinda.
to do that, are you?
No.
No, a lot of people do. But again, with my just project mindedness, I decided I wanted to do it like the pioneers did. So we use a broad axe or an adze, and then to smooth off after we hit them with that, we use the draw knife, which is Root's favorite.
Yeah. So look up an ads, folks, and you'll see that this is not for the weak. This is a very, very manual job, and quite impressive at the end of the day to be able to do it. And then, after you've cut down your tree and you've got it so that you got flat sides to work with, you take a break, you plant 300 trees to replace the one you just cut down, and then what?
Well, then you have to notch the sides. You have to dovetail the sides, which is just a way of cutting that when they're all stacked on top of each other, the weight of the log holds them together. So you don't actually use any nails or pegs or anything like that. It's just the way you cut the log, they go together. Like those little circle puzzles, you put a quarter in the machine and it brings out one of those little eggs with a toy in it. And it's the little spherical puzzles, that you put together. and the shape of the pieces actually holds it in the sphere shape. It's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where
I think a lot of the listeners are old enough to have played with Lincoln Logs when they were a kid, so they probably get the idea of how the logs fit together.
Yeah.
It's very simple and very, very smart.
So then, how far along are you guys on this project?
we have absolutely not started anything for the cabin itself.
Okay.
Other than having the area cleared out and the dirt moved around, so it's a good place for us to start with the foundation.
Sure.
What we've done so far with cutting is we've been practicing, because I don't want to actually cut down one of our big trees that we're going to be using for this
Mm-hmm.
and then screw it up.
Right.
So we've been practicing to make sure that I know where to hit and how to use everything so that I don't waste anything. And so we've cut down some of the softer trees on our place, like a sycamore or maple is another soft tree, and just been practicing on that.
So then,
go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Just as a sort of a side here, I've got absolutely nothing but respect for this. My grandparents did the same thing. They bought some land at the beginning of the Great Depression when land was really, really cheap. And they cut down the trees on the property and built their first house themselves doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was a kid, that log cabin was still standing. They eventually, bought all the land around them and built a house. But it was really cool as a kid being able to see the log cabin that your grandparents cut down the trees on the property and built. It's really, really fascinating, and I think it's great that you guys are doing that.
I think Whisker's actually tempted to do it himself, but because I have more muscle,
yeah, she'd be the one with the ads.
She'd be like, "Okay, all right, Addie, you got to go and cut down that tree." What?
Draw knives are really cool, by the way.
See? You see this? I'd be the one with the broad axe, and Whisker would be the one with the draw knife. What's that all about? So then, is there? Gosh, I don't know. Do you research it on the internet and just say, "Well, I want to make a log cabin from scratch"? Literally.
Well, when we got the land, we wanted to make a place to go out to where we didn't actually have to stay at my parents' house, which is nearby. We wanted to have a place where we could stay on our own. We didn't have to rely on anybody else, for what we wanted to do. I mean, after all, we have the land, so why not?
Right.
We originally wanted to build with stone, and after researching it, building with stone is not actually a good modern material if you don't build with it in a modern way, which would have been a lot more work and incorporating a lot more stuff that you can't do yourself, like moisture barriers and such.
Sure.
So the book that I actually got 2 books just from Amazon, and the same guy actually that wrote those books wrote a book on hewn log cabins. And so I said, well, I'll get those books and research that and see what that's all about. And when I did, it actually turns out that with the amount of work it is, even so, it's easier than doing a good modern structure with stone. So,
so you decided to go that way.
Yeah, and then it really, we still have to get a lot of stone for the foundation. So we'll still be doing some, and the chimney will have to be stone. But it does seem like it'll actually be easier to do the logs rather than the stone.
Very nice.
And you're also doing blacksmithing.
Yeah, that's for any nails we do need. Like I'd like to make a door too. You have this rustic-looking structure with a pressed wood door, like in modern houses. It wouldn't really look good. So I want to try to make my own door, and to complete the effect, I want to make my own hinges and nails and such. So I looked on Craigslist and found a local guy who kind of was doing the same thing I was, and he had a forge for sale. So I got that, and using the little anvil that's on the back of a bench of ice, I kind of started practicing with blacksmithing.
How's that been going?
It's actually very fun and rewarding. I have some pictures of some stuff that I've made that I'm very proud of that I'm sure does not look that great, but to me it looks really neat. But yeah, it turns out that you don't need to use real coal either. You can use charcoal or even the like grilling briquettes.
Yeah.
And they'll work. So I've been just using that. But yeah, it's
Are there any plans to start digging holes in the ground to get your own ore, or is that across the line?
Well, actually, we do have a place on our property that has just iron ore all over on the top of the ground.
Just laying around. Okay.
Oh my
Yeah. It looks like if somebody melted metal and then blew bubbles in it and then it hardened. It's really neat looking stuff.
That's cool.
But I would not know the first thing about actually making
refining
iron from
it.
that.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
So then what metal are you using to forge with or mess around with in terms of blacksmithing?
Well, the stuff that I made recently was just with some bar stock I got from Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that.
Okay.
But one of the big things about working with metal is that you can use pretty much anything you already have. And the byproduct from one of my other hobbies in automotive stuff is that I get a lot of really good high quality steel parts from parts cars and such. So, you can use a strut rod and make a pry bar or a handle for something, or just any number of tools. You can reuse all kinds of stuff because it's getting melted down and hammered into a different shape, so you don't have to worry about what it looks like right now.
And we've covered this before on the show that in the case where there are no hardware stores, cars are hardware stores. There are so many useful things inside of an automobile. And in the case of problems, you're not going to want to be driving around a modern car. You're going to want something with a carburetor because it's a lot easier, a lot simpler engine design. So, the first thing that one would be looking at is, ripping apart a modern car just as a go-to hardware store. It's a ton, literally, of, parts
metal.
And metal and wire and, anything you could want.
Dude, that is so cool that you're into blacksmithing too.
So basically, these guys aren't afraid of the zombie apocalypse.
Well, I mean, you guys would survive like with flying colors because you're already able to, like, essentially make your own house, right? You're able to even have ore on your freaking land, right? Just sitting there. You know how to plant trees, so you know how to probably plant crops, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we actually have that.
Oh, do you? What do you guys have?
Beans and watermelons and more beans, all kinds of beans, corn, chickpeas.
Do you guys do that cool thing where you plant the corn and the beans right together so that they help each other? That's awesome.
Wow.
Peppers too.
I forget the name for it in Spanish, but they've got
Milpa?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
I think that's it.
Yeah. So okay, so you have your carbohydrates, you have your proteins, you have your fruits. They even have fruits, the watermelons. Oh my gosh. I am in awe. I am now bowing towards the mic in awe. Very impressive. Very impressive. So then have you gone into blacksmithing as well, Nobile?
I'm the one turning the wheel for the forge.
That's cool.
So you got to run those bellows constantly to get the temperature up high enough. So it's really kind of a two-person job.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's my apprentice, I guess.
Very nice. Very nice. Jedi wisdom. That's cool. I dig it. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so then you have blacksmithing, there's log cabin making, and you're also kind of a cook, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I love to cook all different kinds of things.
So then what would your ideal food stores be for the zombie apocalypse?
You always have to go with the starches. They're the easiest to store, and they
give a lot of energy.
Yeah, you get a lot of energy. I would say potatoes and corn are, whole civilizations were built on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah,
those two things.
that is true.
I mean, you can dry them, or with the potatoes, you can store them in the ground until you're ready to dig them up and eat them.
You can store them in the ground, won't they? Like grow other potatoes?
Yeah, isn't that a
you
good
just have
thing?
Oh, I guess that is a good thing.
How is that bad? Yeah.
Well, like say I don't know, you need to eat now, but they're like starting to grow little things. I guess you could still eat them.
It doesn't hurt anything.
guess-
I grew up
that's
eating potatoes that come right out of the ground.
I guess that's a very good point. I should grow some potatoes.
And they're so
I
easy.
how
Just
well
keep
they
them in the
do.
shade a little bit.
Yeah. Cool. So now, do you guys have food stores too?
Well, I
No.
imagine once they get their cabin built, they'll be working on that, a cellar for it, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have the place where we're building is on just on the precipice of a large hill, and so we're gonna dig into the hill and make kind of a. I think we're gonna end up pouring our own concrete thing,
Okay.
and just kind of making like a root cellar area. And
Cool.
really, a dark place is a good place to store anything, food and water. When you get the sun on the water, it encourages the growth of all the little baddies in there, but the water stays cooler and doesn't have that sun component to it when you keep it in the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys thinking of doing a cistern?
I'm not sure about that yet. We have a small spring on our property that seems to be all year round. It's not that much water that comes out of it, but it would probably be enough if we captured it or put a spring house there that we'd be able to use it not only just for water, but I think it would probably move fast enough that we could use it for refrigeration of things too. So we may not need to have that if it indeed stays flowing all year round.
We'll also have the smoker.
Oh yeah. I have worked on building a smoker.
So you'll be able to
something.
preserve meats as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're gonna have to move the zombie apocalypse bunker to the Ozarks. I think they've got a pretty darn nice foothold there.
Yeah, another nice thing about that area is that, like we were saying earlier, there's really not that many people out there outside of the cities. So, if it is a human problem like that, you don't have to deal with your neighbors quite as much.
Yep.
Right.
Which can be a blessing and a curse at the same time because you can't trade as easily. But the population out there are typically are families that have been out there since the area was settled. So the families that are there are very local families and they all know each other. So you're not going to have a lot of the societal problems that you would have in places like here where nobody knows their neighbors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And now people are actually starting to move out there from other places more. Since nobody does live out there traditionally, there have been large landowners. Those people, like your grandparents, bought the land a long time ago and were able to afford large tracts. When they pass away or need to move into a more urban location because of age-related complications, they end up having to sell their land out there. And most of the time, they'll sell it to an opportunistic person who will. We have a guy out there that does this. He'll buy the big tracts of land. He'll cut all the trees off it. He'll just clear cut it, and then he'll sell it in 40-acre sections to people from the city who don't really know what a real tree looks like and are happy to have the scrubby little things that are left. And so then on a place that used to have one family living on it and it was a large tract of forest, you have a cleared off place that has maybe 10 families from the city who don't really know how to manage the land. And then you get kind of a tragedy of the commons where everybody has the forest on their land. And so they think, well, if I cut mine, everybody else is still going to have theirs. And it all ends up getting cleared off for cattle and the land erodes. And so it is starting to get a little more populous out there.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it is good that it's bringing money to the local economies because a lot of those little towns are kind of starting to decline, but it does come at a cost.
Right.
And my grandparents do make a good example because it goes all the way to the extreme of that. When they went out there, it was untouched forest. Now a city has grown around them, right?
Right. It's all flat right now. There's like a couple trees in each yard.
the person who they bought the land off was one of those people who was, a developer. We're talking like 1930s developer, but a developer who sold off, lots of the forest.
Mm-hmm.
They owned the whole thing, and they sold off lots to families who wanted to move out there. And there was no, roads there. There was no, sewer or anything like that. It was, there wasn't even a town there yet. But now the city has grown around them. The streets in that area actually, named after us. Because they made the streets. Mm-hmm. So, you kind of have to name them after them. But yeah, it's the extreme example where, just in the course of 100 years, you go from it being a, unsettled wild land, essentially, to, being a suburban neighborhood.
Yep. Well, I will say this. The Ozarks remind me of where the red fern grows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in where the red fern grows, it was, in my image, it was nothing but forest. So I'm very happy that you guys are doing your bit, but I sincerely hope that, those people stop clear cutting, because that'd be a damn shame if the Ozark Mountains became cattle grounds. I mean, that's,
cattle grounds belong up in Wyoming where there aren't any trees.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it there. Oh, my heart's just...
she's Twitter pated. So we've only got like 10 minutes left, and we've got 2 guests this week, so we do need to be a little bit more snappy about our usual questions.
Okay, but I have a side question. So really quick before we go into the actual ZombieTech questions, for you both, what is your favorite tree?
My favorite tree, I would have to say, is the white oak.
Okay.
It gives good wood. The acorns are edible.
Mm-hmm.
With minimal processing. It's a huge crop that attracts deer,
mm-hmm.
and the leaves turn a nice color in the fall. It's just an all around nice tree. It's
cool.
Usable and looks nice.
Cool. How about you, Nobile?
Mine is one that we can't actually get here.
Oh.
It's called the ceiba.
Okay.
And it looks very similar. I mean, not the leaves or anything, but the shape of the tree itself looks very similar to the white oak.
Okay.
It's to me it just looks a very strong, very proud tree. Where it has wide top.
Okay.
And it's actually the national tree in Guatemala.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So we have it in our coins, and everybody, oh, that's such a pretty tree. And now that I moved up here, I kind of miss it.
Sure. Well, I'd say bring one, but I think
they don't survive here. Winters are terrible.
Oh, sure. Well, darn. I don't know. Can you get potted? Little potted ceiba trees?
If it grows that big, I'm not sure I want it inside the house.
Make a tree house.
We have had bananas in pots.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have cold hardy bananas in our front yard. Remember?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we have a lime tree from Central America and a loquat tree.
Nice.
And what else we have in pots?
Very nice.
Yeah. He actually he got the seed from the loquat on our honeymoon, was it?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And it actually grew and
yeah.
took.
Yeah, I had it in my pocket through the airport.
He forgot he had
it just
it there.
Didn't get searched. And then
Customs is gonna get him in trouble.
Yeah, and then when I got home, I realized, hey, I have this seed, so I planted it, and
that's great.
Are you worried? I mean, are you worried it's gonna be spread or anything like that?
Oh no. They only survive down to 50 Fahrenheit, so I have to bring it inside in the winter and everything.
Oh, I see.
There's no chance it's gonna spread.
Okay. And you were saying it was in a pot, so right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. Loquats are good though.
Oh yeah.
Stuff is the tasties.
I had a neighbor several years ago from Vietnam, and every time he'd go home, he'd sneak back some extra seeds. So his yard was just this tropical paradise, and it, in the Midwest. It just looked funny. But yeah, I got to see all sorts of great plants that you just don't see here. Very nice. So we do have a couple of questions that we want to ask you guys.
I know Whisker's rushing me.
Well, we're out of time.
I know. Okay. So for both of you guys, the top 3 tools you would bring to the zombie apocalypse bunker log cabin.
Okay. First one would definitely have to be a gun.
Okay.
I think this. I'm sorry. What?
Any particular kind?
I would probably choose. I have either an AK-47 or an SKS, and they both use the same caliber, and I have a lot of that ammo, so it would have to be one of those two.
Okay.
I assume your AK, your Kalashnikov, is modified for single shot for hunting use.
It's semi-automatic, yeah.
Yeah, and that's for people who didn't grow up in areas where there's hunting. It's very easy to think, Kalashnikov, that's like a machine gun for, rebel forces or something like that. But no, a lot of people actually modify them and use them for hunting. Because
but do I have to modify
they
it?
shoot very straight and they don't have a lot of problems with jamming and stuff. So they're actually really good for hunting.
But if I get an AK-47, do I really have to modify it just to do single shot?
Now you've got her thinking about AK-47.
I mean, if I can get one.
When you buy one, it is already modified.
Can you unmodify
they don't let them
it?
into the United States without them being already made, according to the law. So.
Oh. But you can unmodify it.
You wouldn't want to, though.
Why not?
Because
they're zombies.
Ammo's expensive.
Yeah, but there's zombies. What do I care if ammo's expensive?
Actually,
Okay.
in a situation where you're wanting to conserve ammo, it's not like on the movies where you pull the trigger and it goes for like a couple minutes. 30 cartridges are spent in just like a second.
What?
With an actual machine, full automatic gun, they're gone in such a short amount of time.
Lame.
Yeah, it's better just to do one shot with one trigger pull.
All right, sniper time. I get it. Okay.
All right, so
gun,
like a Kalashnikov or an SK, and then what?
Have to be a hammer.
Okay.
Very useful.
And
the things that Brad can do with a hammer.
And a mattock.
Okay, what's a mattock?
Mattock is like the thing that looks like a grub hoe on one side and a pickaxe on the other.
What's a grub hoe?
It's like
Yeah, look this up.
it's not just something you call somebody you don't like.
Okay.
You grub hoe, you.
It's like a pickaxe with one of the sides flattened.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
for
about.
digging trenches and stuff.
Yeah.
I know what he's talking about, but I'm guessing most of our City Slicker
It's
listeners have no idea.
It's like a hoe on one side and a pickaxe on the other.
Very useful for digging holes.
Yeah, and for like killing zombies.
Yeah.
I approve. I approve.
Can only picture little Addie running around with one of those big things.
I don't think you.
Weighs
I don't
as
think
much
you.
as-
I don't think you want me to. This is like one of those classic cases where I accidentally trip and then realize this thing is sticking out of my stomach.
Okay,
just
so
gone and killed
basically
myself.
he's got his hunting, his building, and his digging all taken care of here.
Yes.
So okay, so we've got the masculine side of things now.
Hey, girls can use those things too. All right, how about you, Nobile?
Oh gosh, I'm not as well planned as Brad has it.
That's okay.
But I would probably my self-defense one would be a machete or some sort of big knife.
Nice.
He can do the far away stuff, and I just have to make sure I don't get myself killed.
Sure, I approve.
Also, what is it? Those, it's not a skateboard, but those ones where you can, I guess it's kind of like a skateboard. So I can go faster without using gas, or bike or something.
Like
A vehicle that doesn't use gas.
Okay.
Like a bike.
Yeah.
Bicycle,
Yeah,
scooter,
bike.
skateboard, rollerblades, something
Anything
like
like
that.
that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Sure.
As
Or a
long-
horse. Would a horse count?
But then they get tired.
Not as fast as you would.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. But then I would have to eat it or something. Horse jerky.
Horse
Yeah.
jerky.
And then Brad would be like, I could use glue for lots of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
He probably can make the glue with his hammer or something.
Oh my gosh, PETA's gonna be like on our backs. What? Horsehide glue?
Actually, I have some of that downstairs.
I know.
Oops.
What? Sorry, PETA.
I build musical instruments. I need hide glue.
I suppose we do.
Okay, so those are your first two. What's your last one there?
Some sort of cooking implement, like a cast iron pan.
Yeah.
Not a pot, because that would be too heavy. But
Sure.
yeah, a pan or something like that that doesn't need so much to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like our skillet?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So between the two of you guys, I think you got it pretty well covered.
Yep. And then what book would you guys say? You could only keep one book, right?
Just one.
Just one.
Oh, that hurts.
I think I know which book I would choose.
Oh.
I have a book here called Foxfire,
Okay.
and it's all about local edible plants and things like that.
Ah.
And I think if we're out in the wilderness, there's stuff that I don't know still, even after looking at a whole bunch of it, I still don't know. But if I had a book there with some references and stuff, I'd be able to, find the mushrooms and other stuff.
Yeah, plants are a great way to get food, but they're also a great way to die. Because, if you don't know what you're doing, it's a crapshoot. Things that look completely normal can kill you.
Yep. Okay, that sounds good. And then how about you, Nobile?
I'm still thinking it. Part of me wants to save something like something historical that since it's the apocalypse.
Yep.
Probably there will be some sort of civilization that should need information from what happened, what caused it, or whatever, and for them to learn later on.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't make up my mind on which book I would want. 'Cause the corny thing would be to say like a Bible or a history book from elementary school.
Sure.
But bringing something more specific, I think, would be better as well.
Sure.
'Cause
Actually, now that I think about it, no one's ever really addressed whether or not people will have the history of
We talked a
the
little bit
zombie
about
apocalypse.
it. We talked a little bit about making sure that, like with when they interviewed me, I said that I wanted to have, like a bunch of reference material of history and manufacturing and blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
all on sort of like, if I could take 1,000 books, I would, because, in the future, you need to be able to pass down your knowledge to the generation after you, and it would be very hard to do without books.
Mm-hmm.
Even a math book would be good.
That's true.
Very,
yeah.
very
That is
useful.
true.
Yeah.
Anything that we could educate the following generations, I think that's. But I still can't make up which one would be.
Well, I think you've come up with some awesome ideas either way, so it's okay. We'll let you re-answer when we bring you guys back on at a later date after the log cabin's been done, and then you can let us know after taking out the splinters how the rest of us can do that too.
Well, that was a super awesome show.
I know.
So you guys have like a website or anything like that people can go to check out what you've been up to?
We do have a website that just follows our forestry stuff, and that's ozarksforest.com.
Okay. And we will put that down.
And I believe there's a YouTube channel as well with some stuff.
Well, not really. No, it's just
Nothing
my
really
personal one
official.
that I put some stuff on.
Okie dokie. So for you stalkers out there, we won't link to it, but like I said, Brad's very manly. So for you lady listeners.
Oh no, I don't know. Nobile's got a machete, so
That's true.
I don't know if she's got a machete in one hand and a skillet, cast iron skillet in the other.
Those things
Those
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah. All right. thank you for joining us, guys, and listeners. Thank you for tuning in this week.
Yes.
Really fun show. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yes.
Thanks for having us on.
Anytime.
We put up our show once every week on Thursday at ZombieTech.tv. You can subscribe to it with your phone, your iPod, whatever, even your computer if you roll that way. So, yeah, I think that's it for us for this week. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.